Hey guys, what's up? This is Dan here as always, and I got another rolling stock update for you guys so you guys can check out some of the new cars that I've been buying recently in my efforts to build a modern fleet of mostly box cars and tank cars right now. I also have brought out some older cars that I've shown in past videos here on YouTube. Like I said, a lot of times when I did the weathering jobs on certain cars, they didn't often have as much graffiti, and because I was at the point in time I was working on actually building an archive, taking photographs of real tags and collecting photos online, and making a personal archive on my computer that I could use to go back and then hand paint most of the graffiti on these cars later. And that's kind of been a big project, but as you know, hand painting graffiti is very time consuming, so this is one of the big reasons why I didn't do it right off the bat. Normally what I do is I weather the car, put the striping on it, and pretty much get it ready for service, and then I'll sometimes go back and add the graffiti later. So what I ended up having is quite a few cars, but in particular box cars and hoppers, that were lacking a lot of the graffiti that I think, in my opinion, they needed to look further realistic, and preferably, like, not preferably, but moreover, these are cars that I didn't have prototype photos of, because normally, like you guys know, I use prototype photos for pretty much all of my weathering, but sometimes you do run into cars where you can't find the photos and you kind of have to guesstimate, or you have to look at sister cars and like look and see what kind of graffiti they have. And I do that a lot too, where I collect pictures of cars that are sister cars of cars that I have in my collection, that I use as weathering and for graffiti inspiration as well. So like I said, I've been going back and adding a lot of graffiti to my rolling stock. So I got a couple cars here that you guys might recognize from prior videos, but the only differences with them will be that I might have changed a few things on them from either a little bit of weathering, mostly graffiti, and maybe even a difference in like safety striping, patching, you know, whole 9 yards there. So I'll go ahead and get right into this, and I think you guys will like this one here. A couple cars that I've been working on lately in my efforts, like I said, to put the graffiti on a lot of these cars. The first one I've done here is this TTX box car. This is 670003, and this is one of the new TTX logo railcar boxes. And so with this one, I got some prototypical pictures of some of the graffiti, and again, since I couldn't find photos of this exact car, I basically stole the graffiti off of a sister car and put it on this one. So this is all hand painted. The smaller tags like these here are all done with paint pen and marker, permanent marker. Fine tip Sharpie, basically, and it works pretty well to do like the small little tags like these guys up here, and the bigger tags like these are all hand done with the acrylic paint and fine tip brushes. So all this came out pretty good. With this one, I tried to do a little bit of patching. I put the safety striping, over them, because you know how the roads are with the requirements. Anytime that these things get graffiti, they're usually pretty quick to put safety striping or patches over it, like in this particular case here. And they also did the re-stenciling job, or they put the card data over the graffiti here. Did a little patch there over that graffiti, so that's just something there. And this other side here is especially cool. On this side, I copied a tag off of a photo I've had for a little while, and this is a tag by Eclipse and Epic, I believe. And what they did here was they painted this large mural with a star background and then an 8-ball in the middle. I thought that was really cool, so I copied that on this car here. And what I did was all this was hand painted. I actually did a spray painted background on this one. Unlike most cars where I actually take and hand paint everything, I actually did the spray pattern on the back. So I masked the very top here and then just left a little bit of a line. So I kind of aimed the spray can just down a little bit, because I used spray paint for this, and just like left a little lip in the masking so that it kind of created this overspray effect here, like what real spray paint would do. So that's how I created that effect. I did all the lettering and all that first, obviously, and then I went back afterwards and put the background in, like right here where you see the stars and the two different blue colors there. And I worked over the doors. I got the 8-ball, like I said, a little bit of tagging here and there, and then Epic. The Epic tag here on the back. And you can notice that I did the patching. So what I did here was, before I did all the graffiti, I took masking tape and marked over put it over all of these stencils. That way they didn't get covered up with paint, and I could peel them off to represent what would look like a fresh patching or stenciling. And the same thing here on the numbers too, you can see. And I kept those clean, masked them off, and then once all the graffiti was done, everything was sealed up, I just peeled that off. So that's how I did that. Once I finished all the graffiti, I just put the safety striping over this one as well. And so I think it came out pretty good. It's another interesting car in my fleet, so that looks really good. So the TTX car here is officially done. I can go back into my roster. So that's completely done now. I recently finished a UP 60-foot Gunderson boxcar now, and this is another Athearn RTR model. Here's the first side. Again, all prototypical graffiti. I try not to make up graffiti in particular, because whenever I find that whenever I make up tags, they usually don't look too good. So I try to use prototype photos whenever I can here. So this is where I'm getting the inspiration for some of this graffiti. So you get a lot of hand-painted stuff, and then you get all the little tags here and there, a lot of gang scribble all over this part here, and then the safety striping is covering all this here. This car didn't need to have any other touch-up beyond the graffiti and the safety striping. It was just a matter of putting the graffiti and all that on there. So everything else, like the weathering, was already completed prior. So on this side here, this is my favorite side. The graffiti came out in particularly very well. You can see all the hand-painted graffiti, and this was pretty time-consuming here. This probably took like I think 6 hours total to do both sides, and that's all the graffiti work in total. It's, like I said, it's very time consuming to do all this, and this is why I generally don't do the graffiti right away after I just weathered a car. I'll usually just kind of rest a little bit and just kind of, you know, let things settle down a bit, kind of decide how the car looks before I do anything else to it, figure if there's anything else I want to do to it. So like I said, whenever I do a car, I consider it's never, you know, 100% done. There's always something else. There's always another detail you could add to it if you're into that. So there's always something you can do to these cars to make them look better, and graffiti is one of them. So there's one of the UP cars that I've done, and I got a couple more of these that I think I'll do a little more graffiti to. I haven't done anything else too crazy. I think I got another one like this that I did some simplified tagging to, but I won't show that one today. So we'll go ahead and set this aside. Another car I have is one that you guys have seen before too. This is another one of my Hazmat soil cars, and this one just got some simple weathering touch-up and new safety striping and a lot more graffiti here, as you can see. So that all came out pretty good. Again, this was done off of some photos of another car, and it looks pretty good. And pretty much about the same on this side. I didn't go as crazy on this side, just a lot of gang scribble in particular on this. So it looks pretty good. So that's another car I've been working on lately. That's finished and ready to go back into my into storage here. So that came out pretty good. And I'll go ahead and move in. Well, actually, wait a minute. I got another car here. I'm sorry. This is another box car here. This is, I think, a Berwick car from Atlas, and this is the popular EEC, or I think the Erie Commercial Railroad. And with this one, again, I've had this for a little while now. It's been serviced. It's got a couple miles on it by now, but I went back and added a little more graffiti to be a little bit more realistic. So I added like the gang scribble and all that there on this side, and then this side is my favorite. This came out pretty good. You can see all the custom painted graffiti and a little bit more gang scribble as well, kind of scattered about. And you can see I preserved the stencil there by masking over it, just like I did on the TTX car, to preserve that car data stencil there, and then just did the graffiti over it. So, excuse me, pretty simple, but that's done. That car is done now, and it looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and set that aside. Okay, so now we can go ahead and move into some new cars here, which I know what you guys want to see. The first car I have here is one that's really cool. This is another EEC box car, and you can notice right off the bat, this one's very clean. And what I modeled here was one of the EEC box cars that recently got repainted. I've been seeing these a lot lately on railfan trips, these cars that get refurbished. And what's interesting about these is that these are not like more of a regular cars that get refurbished where they repaint the whole thing and like replace the wheels and the couplers and all that, where you'll have like the bright rusty couplers. What they did simply on these cars was just simply repaint the car body and nothing else. So what I had to do with this one, I just did a nice high gloss finish on this. I put the reflective tape on there for the striping. I did have to add the new placard boards here, or the the data boards here, which are the wood panels. I made that out of styrene and then made a wood grain finish in it and then painted it and added it to the model, and that's on both sides. That was something else I had to do because the Atlas model was lacking that. Another thing I did here on the roof before I move on to the other body, when they did the repaint job on this, the overspray, they usually on these box cars what happens is they just spray paint it. They don't mask the roof off or anything because it's not that important, so you get the overspray on the roof here. So you can see I made a matching paint color, matching the stock paint on the Atlas model, and then painted it onto the roof here to look like overspray on the roof. And then I just darkened the panels, faded them down a little bit with a little bit of a whitewash to kind of make them look oxidized and old and rusty. So that looks pretty cool. And on the trucks here, you can see they're you know, pretty grimy. You can see and that came out pretty nice. I just kind of hit the bearings up with a little bit of rust. The springs are a little rusty too, and the rest is just kind of grime. And I kept the wheel treads also pretty clean on this, or the wheel rims rather, so that looks pretty good. Same thing on this wheel, and then on the ends here, nothing crazy. I did replace the couplers with KDs on this one too, because the Atlas couplers that they include on these, which are a two-piece coupler, in my opinion, suck. So I replace those whenever I can. So here's the other side, and pretty much the same. You can see there's a little bit of kind of some rust running down from these like little parts here, the moving parts in particular, where like the rust will be kind of coated underneath and it starts to streak down a little bit. So you can see there's a little bit of grime here and there, but it's just more over kind of like a rusty dust kind of effect, which I did with some chalk pastels. But overall, this car came out pretty good. I think it looks really good, and I'm happy with how it turned out. So that's the EEC box car I just recently did, and I'll go ahead and move on to some tank cars here. The first car I'm going to show you guys is a recent release from Athearn. This is a UTLX glycol tank car, I believe, and this is a 11262. And I've been noticing that a lot of guys, whenever they've been, since everybody's kind of buying these up right now, every one of these cars that I've seen people weather up, they weather them too heavy. According to prototype photos, these are still pretty clean, even though they have a little bit of age to them by now. They get the typical road grime on the bottom and kind of around the hatches, but they're not that dirty. So I kind of try to make mine look relatively clean here. I just gave it a nice fade. I did a little bit of a rust around the panel lines and all that with some chalks. Hit the hatch up pretty good, and the walkways on the top there, and it's streaking down a little bit to the top. The vent there on the top's got a little rust going on it here. There's just some grime in that a little patch of grime there. And you can see I had the safety stripes. You got a little custom tagging. The trucks came out pretty nice here too. You can see they're nice and grimy. And on the ends, you got the kick-up spray. Oops. Kick-up spray, nice rusty couplers, and you got all the kick-up on the walkways here as well. So you can see it looks pretty good. On this side, pretty much the same. A little bit more simplified though. There's nothing really too crazy. Just a little bit of streakage running down from the hatch, and just a little bit of road grime underneath with a little bit of kick-up there. You can see. But nothing too crazy. So I'm happy with that, how that came out. I think it looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and set that aside. These next two cars are both Athearn KLN tank cars, and these are ones I've wanted to redo. The last KLN tank car I did was kind of more over an experiment, and I was happy with the techniques on it, but I ended up selling that to a friend, and so I recently got these two on eBay for dirt cheap. I think $15 a car. It's just pretty cool. So with these, what I did is I weathered them off of prototype photos, and these are really fun to do. What happens with these is they kind of get this halo effect on the roof, or the top of the tank, where it's this kind of rusty halo effect. The panel lines get darkened, and then you get a lot of KLN streakage from the top hatch there. So that's what I replicated here on this car, was all that with chalk pastels. The panel lines I did with hand painting. Added the safety stripes. You got a little custom graffiti on this one. The KLN spillage is mostly acrylic dry brushing, and then you can see it's even on the trucks here a little bit, and then it's streaking down onto the bottom of the car around the outlet there as well. So that looks pretty good. And on the top here, you can see you got the KLN spillage on the top that's built up, and you can see that it's kind of this powdery clay material, which is KLN, built up around the hatch there, so that looks pretty good. And I did that with some baking soda and clear coat to do that effect, so that came out pretty good. And on this side, pretty much the same. Some scatter tags here and there. And this one here in particular, I tried to use the stencil lettering. Unlike the normal font where it's all the lettering is together, these are more over like a stencil letter here. So I did that by taking an X-Acto knife and scraping through the lines to make it look like stencil lettering. So that came out pretty good. And that was done, I did that because the prototype had it like that, so that's why I did it like that. But this one came out pretty good. You can see I'm really happy with how that turned out. I think my favorite part here is the kick-up, which I did, and I think I'm really proud of. You can see I did the kick-up spray on the ends, where you have the kind of some dry brushing effects to start, and then I do the hand painted line or the streak coming up from the wheel, and then I follow behind with all the little specks right there by doing my technique where I take the stiff bristle brush, put it against the straight edge, and splatter it, or make the paint splatter with the thin acrylic to do that. So that came out pretty good. Not sure what this little bit of actually this little piece right here, I'm gonna actually remove that real quick. I don't know what that is. Anyways, go ahead and move on. to this end. Again, pretty much the same, but like I said, I really like the kick-up, how it turned out. I think it looks really good. So that's the first UTLX car. The second one is about the same. It's just weathered just a little bit differently. On this part here, you can see I tried to do some scratches on the tank side too, and I also kind of damaged up the, scuffed up the safety stripes a little bit too, so that came out pretty good. Got the KO and spillage from down from the hatch, and this one's a little bit more extensive on the bottom. You can see all the fine streaks, which I did with dry brushing effects. So that came out pretty good. So caked all over the trucks. So that looks pretty good. Again, there's the kick up on the end of this one and on the other end. So that, excuse me, that looks pretty good. And on this side, about the same. Just a little bit of tagging here and there as well. But these are some nice K1 cars, you can see. Really like these. These are really nice cars. These will be going into service as well. Hauling K1 clay. So those are the two K1 cars I did recently. Now, the last tank car I'm going to show you guys before I kind of finish this video up is one that I'm very proud of. This is an older Athearn 20K acid tank car. This one is, I believe, a Richardson Industry, I believe, built, or a Richmond Industry tank car, I believe. Anyways, these are some older cars, and what I had to do with this one, I renumbered it first. I had to do a lot of stencil modifications. So the one thing I did, like I said, was renumber it. I also added the new tank inspection decal here on the back. You got the double hazmat placards, which I found interesting on this particular car. Got the safety stripes. I did all kinds of rust, speckling effects, rust spots. Got a little acid corrosion running down there from the hatch, going all the way down to the bottom of the tank, which looks pretty cool. You got all the kick-up effects on the bottom. And then on the top here, you can see it's nice and rusty. The hatch is grimed up. I did the anti-skid panel on the top by painting that black, so that came out pretty good. And you can see all those individual little rust spots and all that. Came out very nice. Got the new hydrochloric acid stencil, and that looks pretty cool. Excuse me. And on this side, pretty much the same. You can see how nice that looks. And on this part here, you can see I did some more scratches on the tank body here, and you can see the safety stripe there is scuffed up as well, so that looks pretty cool. You got interestingly enough, the spray painted bearing caps, which are painted yellow. That looks pretty cool too, so I did that. I got all the kick up on the ends, like I said, and then it leads up to the end here. So that looks pretty good, nice and grimy. And on this end, we have pretty much the same. So I think that came out pretty good. So that's a modern acid car that'll be going into my fleet hauling acid. So that looks pretty cool. So those are the tank cars I've been doing, all four of them there. I think they all look really good, and I'm happy with how they turned out. To kind of finish up this video, I have HLCX 6204 up here. This guy recently got a lube job. I had to take it apart because it was binding pretty good on a test run. So what I had to do with it was I took it apart, cleaned out the motor and the trucks, took them all apart, took all the old Athearn grease out of it, and then re-greased these with some Labelle oil, and it runs pretty smoothly now. I just kind of touched up the weathering on this as well. It just kind of fixed a few things, modified a few things as well. I also added the exposed bearing caps, or the single exposed bearing cap on each side of the truck here. As you can see here, that came out pretty good. So that was just a small detail I did, detail change there on both these trucks on both sides. So that's another little detail that came out exceptionally nice. So 6204 is ready to go back into service here. So that came out just some final touches on the this guy here. So that all came out pretty good. So that's pretty much all the new models I've been working on lately. I'll go ahead and show you guys these in the back here. These are all some kind of runners up that I'll be working on here pretty soon as well. I got another EEC boxcar right here. I got a CN, former Illinois Central boxcar I'll be working on. I got this GTW boxcar I'll be kind of finishing up here. I've already done some work to it, putting these replaced panels on the roof and the tack board there as well. That's a couple things I've done. I got this UNVX caustic soda tank car I'll be working on as well. So that needs the double shelf couplers and all kinds of other stencil modifications before I can finish that. So that's just a couple cars that I'll be working on here pretty soon. Some other cars that I'll show you guys here real quick are these GVSR box cars that I'll be doing a how-to weathering video on. I'll only be showing one, obviously, for the sake of time and demonstrative purposes. But what I'll be doing with this particular car, well, I'll be demonstrating how to fade down the paint. I'll be doing the weathering and custom graffiti. So that'll be a how-to video that I'll be doing here pretty soon when I can get some more time. to kind of focus on it. So hopefully you guys will like that when it comes out. So that'll be done here in maybe a couple months or so. So keep your guys, you guys can keep your eyes peeled for that. So that's just a little, just wanted to give you guys the heads up on that. So I think you guys will like that when it happens. But I know you guys are also probably curious about the trash containers, and though I have not made too much progress on those, the project is still going. It's just a process of kind of finishing the decaling on all the containers before I can move on to working on the flat cars again. So that kind of just pretty much gets us up to date here on all the products I've been working on, though, guys. I hope you like what you see for now. I'll keep posting regularly on Facebook any projects that I do. Be sure to check me out on Facebook, by the way. Dan's Custom Trains is my Facebook page. Daniel Arnold is my name there. You guys can check out my page there if you like. And then you can subscribe here, leave comments below, like this video if you want. I always love to hear you guys' feedback on my work, and never mind too. And so, like I said, stay tuned for more, guys, and I'll keep posting as I go along here. So thanks for watching as always, and take care.